All right, we should be live. Good evening. I'm Texas Storm Chasers Baldy in Chief David Reimer. It is about 8:50. Yeah, it's a few minutes before 9 here on this Sunday evening, the 10th of October 2021. A line of severe thunderstorms is rapidly moving east into the DFW Metroplex. These storms are not lollygagging in any way, shape, or form. In fact, they are moving east at about 50 to 60 miles per hour, which means they will not be at any one spot for long. But that also has the negative side effect of folks not having a lot of lead time ahead of a storm's arrival. So let's go ahead and talk about it. We've got a line of severe storms, nearly solid line, extending from near Windstar World Casino, Thackerville, Oklahoma, technically. Now, just west of Gainesville on Highway 82, coming up to the west side of Denton, just west of Crum, Ponder, North Lake, Justin, moving into western Tarrant County, eastern Parker County. It'll be in Granbury within the next 5 minutes. Glenrose the next 15 minutes, all the way southwest, coming into Hamilton. And then we have weaker storms extending into the hill country at this time. Maybe some small hail with these thunderstorms. Hail not a big concern tonight. Damaging straight line winds are a concern tonight and the primary hazard with the most intense thunderstorms. We've also been keeping an eye out for any signs of brief tornado spin-ups, but so far, so good. We'll do a quick storm track on this, give folks a little idea of just when these storms are going to be arriving. I'm going to draw ahead of the storms on the radar because they're moving so quickly. By the time the radar updates, well, they'll probably be roughly there. So, Fort Worth, at least downtown Fort Worth, we're looking at about 9:06 to 9:10, 9:07 for Denton, a little sooner west of Den, a couple minutes later east of Den. Arlington, about 9:17 to 9:20. Grand Prairie, about 9:23. Carrollton, 9:25. Cedar Hill, Duncanville, about 9:31. Sherman, 9:32. Downtown Dallas up to Richardson and Plano around 9:35. McKinney about 9:35 to 9:40. Rowlett and Mesquite about 9:45. Don't take these times to the bank. It may be a couple minutes sooner, it may be a couple minutes later, but that gives you a general time estimate. And that these thunderstorms are booking. And they don't have to stop at traffic lights, stop signs, or deal with DFW traffic. If only we could all avoid that, but alas. Okay, so I'm going to do now, we're going to switch radar products from the how hard it's raining mode. I'm going to look at the which way the wind is blowing mode, and we're going to use a terminal Doppler weather radar. These were actually introduced. Let's see if I can actually get the data to load. I don't know why it doesn't easily, but let's try that. You know what? That's okay. We'll just use our typical weather radar source, and that will be good enough. So let me turn this off. We'll switch over to the which way the wind is blowing mode. And I can promise you there are very strong winds across portions of western Denton County, northwest Tarrant County, but the radar itself is not going to show them as efficiently because of where it's located, and it's kind of got a weird beam angle. But what I can do is real quick, actually just turn on a different monitor and a different product. Just a second to get this set up on the fly. Yeah, we'll just do that. This is radar scope on the PC version. I'll have to actually make a better setup before our next severe weather chances on Tuesday. But what I want to look at, these are the strong winds I was talking about. This is off the terminal Doppler weather radar located just north of 635 on Coppell in far northwest Dallas. The blues you're seeing, those are very strong winds being indicated near or just above the surface. that could be exceeding 60 miles per hour. We'll use this little flag here that says 62 miles per hour. Move into Hazlitt, 69 miles per hour, 73 miles per hour coming up on Saginaw, 76 miles per hour. Radar is also showing winds back in eastern Parker County of 60 to 70 miles per hour, too. So while our typical next weather radar may not be showing those extreme winds, the terminal Doppler weather radar product is. We could, what I'm seeing, little circulation trying to develop on the north side of the stronger winds coming up into the town of Crum. We'll be crossing over Interstate 35 north of Denton, just north of where the Love's Truck stop is, the Blue Beacon on the west side of the interstate. On the east side, you've got the TA Travel Center with Boston Market and Burger King, all that. This is very near, we'll cross very near where the old Love's is, east side of 35. That's actually about to get demolished because of the interstate expansion. So this little circulation could, if it tightened up or intensified, produce a brief tornado. But regardless, the main threat with the squall line itself is going to be very strong winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour from near Crum to North Lake to Justin, coming up on Interstate 35W now. The Texas Motor Speedway coming into Hazlitt, Saginaw, over Eagle Mound Lake right now. We could have winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour out of the west. A lot of heavy rain and some small wind-driven hail. They're going to be loud, but they're not going to last very long because they're moving east. It's about 60 miles per hour. So, with that being said, let me turn this back off and we will look at our typical weather radar product. And we'll switch back over to the how hard it's raining mode, and you can see a pone line of thunderstorms for sure. Again, Crum to North Lake to Justin, Hazlitt, Eagle Mound Lake, Saginaw, Lake Worth, coming into Benbrook, moving east at 60 miles per hour. It's not a very large line in terms of its width, so it actually probably won't last rain-wise more than 10 minutes at any given location. Then the rain's done. You'll have west winds and some cooler temperatures filtering on in behind the storms. So, that's the story. Strongest storms moving into the Metroplex. No tornado warnings right now. We're not expecting a significant tornado threat. Thankfully, the storms have remained linear and a solid squall line, so we haven't had any discrete storms or little notches in a squall line have not been able to spin up and produce tornadoes. So, again, we'll have to keep an eye on things, but damaging straight line winds and stronger line segments, 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, otherwise 40 to 55 mile an hour winds. The highest potential for winds up to maybe a little over 70 miles per hour currently extend from Crum, Ponder, North Lake, likely moving into the west side of Den right now. All the way down 35W into Hazlitt, about to move into Keller. We could see winds 60 to 70 miles per hour. And perhaps a brief tornado. Again, it doesn't really matter if tornado with 70 mile an hour winds or straight line winds with 70 mile an hour winds hit your house. Both are going to be rather unpleasant. So even though it may just be a severe thunderstorm warning, hey, it's a pretty nasty line of severe storms, so go ahead and take it seriously. I'd recommend getting away from west-facing windows. You know, just treat it like any bad thunderstorm. It won't last long. It's moving east at 60 miles an hour, so that is the beauty of it all. And for those wondering, you can keep an eye on these storms with our interactive weather radar on our website, texasstormchasers.com/radar, or on the Texas Storm Chasers mobile app. The radar's the first thing that'll pop up in the app. Make sure we're actually streaming. I believe we are. So, that's what we have going on. You'll note the National Weather Service just issued a smaller severe thunderstorm warning. This is where we could have a possible brief tornado develop in addition to winds of 70 miles per hour. These storms are moving east at 55 to 60 miles per hour. We'll use the fancy, well, I can't use the fancy storm track because it thinks the storm is in a singular spot. So let's try this. And I'm going to draw it ahead of the storms again because based on how quickly they're moving, and it takes a couple minutes for radar data to update, I don't want to get behind on the storm, so that'll work. Sanger, pretty much about to be in the next couple minutes. Same thing for the city of Denton. Next 3 to 5 minutes, strong winds, 60, 70 miles an hour. Pilot Point, Aubrey, Krugerville, New Hope, Highway 377, you've got about 15 minutes, 9:33 for Salina, 9:35 for Gunter. Van Alstyne, you've got 9:46. Melissa, Anna, about 9:45 to 9:50. Westminster, 9:54. Blue Ridge, 9:58. And Trenton, 10:01 p.m. this evening. Storms farther south are also capable of producing some winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour. We're seeing a pretty impressive velocity signature in terms of damaging winds moving into Tarrant County. I don't know if it's going to actually show up here on this radar product. I'm having to use a different one. You know, it doesn't, so we're going to switch back over to the super duper improvised David weather radar because David has to always improvise things and then talk about himself in the third person. You can see the terminal Doppler weather radar is indicating very strong straight line winds. Those are winds of 75 to perhaps 80 miles an hour just above the surface. In Hazlitt and Saginaw, that'll be moving into the city of Keller, Trophy Club, Roanoke, Watauga. In the next 5 minutes, these storms move east at 60 miles an hour. You can see Lakeside, Azle, Eagle Mound Lake. We've got winds up to 60 to 70 miles an hour. Strong winds extending down 377 coming into Benbrook and Crescent over the next 5 to 10 minutes. So definitely going to have to keep an eye on that. Very strong west winds that could knock some fences down, maybe pick some shingles off your roof. Knock tree limbs down, cause power outages because, well, power outages in Texas, that's normal since February now, right? Tree limbs, definitely you'll have to keep an eye out for those, and keep in mind some trees may still be weakened from the rather unpleasant situation we had back in February called hell froze over, essentially. So if we have any weakened trees, those may get toppled down with some of these stronger winds as well. So again, very strong. Sorry, I know zooming in and out real fast isn't fun. Very strong winds, 70 to 80 miles an hour being shown on the weather radar. Hazlitt down to Saginaw, Eagle Mound Lake. Pretty nasty little pocket of strong straight line winds moving right towards the city of Keller. Keller's always a wonderful place to visit. Trophy Club, South Lake, Keller, Watauga, maybe Colleyville in the next 15 minutes. The potential for very strong winds over 70 miles an hour that could knock down trees, power lines, and make some scary sounds. So do not be near wind, or do not be near west-facing windows. Switch back over to the fancier version of our radar. And you can see leading edge of the storms coming into Benbrook, White Settlement, the west side of Fort Worth, Lake Worth, Saginaw, Hazlitt, paralleling Interstate 35W right now, all the way up into the city of Denton. Let me get rid of that storm track so you can actually see what's going on. About to cross over 35, all the way from Valley View, Gainesville, Sanger, city of Denton. All right, let me make sure our folks on Twitter know we're doing live coverage. And by the way, thank you to all those joining us on DFW Scanner. Mr. John Bergdorf, the owner of DFW Scanner, is kind enough to allow us to stream weather coverage when we have impactful weather in the Metroplex, so we always want to get the word out to as many folks as possible. So let's review. No tornado warnings, not expecting supercellular long-lived tornadoes. This is a squall line. We have a lot of strong west winds, maybe a brief tornado or two, but again, this is a situation where, I mean, if we had a brief tornado, the winds might be 80 90 miles an hour. Straight line winds in that same area, probably 75 to 85 miles an hour if they occur. So it doesn't really matter if it's a tornado or straight line winds. In this case, both would do damage. So that's why we're keeping an eye on things with this nasty line of storms moving on east. Very strong winds now in the city of Hazlitt, city of Keller. You're about to get some very strong winds as well. We'll look at it on this product. Unfortunately, based on where the radar is located, the beam looking due north and due south doesn't always get the best view. So we're going to need to get these storms a little farther east to actually see the accurate velocity representations. You'll see the radar thinks there's winds of 5 miles an hour in Hazlitt and Keller. I promise you that's not the case, because there are other radars, terminal Doppler weather radars for wind shear detection, showing winds of 75 miles an hour in Hazlitt right now. Not ideal. You can see we've actually got some very strong winds showing up on the Fort Worth radar. 75 to 85 miles an hour, about probably 600 feet above the surface. From Granbury down to Glen Rose, moving northeast towards western Johnson County. Godley, Cleburne, Joshua, Briar Oaks, Burleson, you could be getting in on these very strong winds as this section of the squall line moves east-northeast. You can almost see an interesting little shape there. We're going to be keeping an eye out for any appendages or other sort of leading edge signatures on this squall line. While we're not dealing with supercells out by themselves, we are still dealing with thunderstorms in a very favorable environment for spin and rotation. So we have to keep an eye out for areas of localized rotation and the potential for brief tornadoes. We've got live streaming storm chasing video for meteorologist Jason Cooley and Alex Bartholomew. They're actually up in Ardmore, Oklahoma right now, I believe. They're going to be heading back east and south here soon. But they actually had a paid gig up for a different area, so you gotta do what you gotta do. But fortunately for us, we're not dealing with discrete supercells. We're dealing with a solid line of storms that greatly reduces the threat for tornadoes, but does not eliminate it. And we are not dealing with giant hail, long-lived tornadoes, etc. Storms now, Sanger, Denton, all the way up to Gainesville, moving east 60 miles per hour, down to Trophy Club, coming into Keller, Saginaw, River Oaks, be in downtown Fort Worth in the next 5 minutes, down to Benbrook, all the way down now east of Granbury, literally lasted 5 minutes in Granbury, moving into Johnson County shortly, and Godley, all the way down towards Rio Vista over the next 10 to 15 minutes. You can see these storms developing farther south. Walnut Springs be raining and pouring with some gusty winds in Meridian here in the next 10 minutes. It's pouring in Hamilton right now. Fortunately, we haven't received any reports of big hail today with these storms here in Texas. With these being linear, that generally keeps the hail threat low. And we're dealing with some strong winds, small hail, keeping an eye out for any signs that we're dealing with brief tornadoes, but we're not at the moment. But no big hail, no big golf ball size hail. We shouldn't be dealing with any hail that dents your cars. We are going to be watching out for strong winds that can take down tree limbs, knock down fences, take shingles off roofs, etc., and cause some power outages. So that is what we have going on right now. I'm just taking a look at some data and some information, maintaining my situational awareness. Those, I don't know if the mic's filtering them out, the moo, moo, or whatever sounds, or cow sounds. That is a chat program, which has cow sounds. So, no, I don't just have some buzzer over here making cow sounds. Although if I went down to downtown Fort Worth in the stockyards, I'm sure I could get one. So, with that being said, I realize it's loud if you're under these storms. I realize these storms are producing quite a bit of cloud-to-ground lightning, strong winds, but fortunately, they're moving east at about 60 miles an hour. They're not going to last more than 5 to 10 minutes at any given spot, and then we will be done with the storms for tonight, at least in your location. These storms are likely to make it all the way to the Arklatex, Arkansas and Louisiana in several hours from now, so we're going to have to deal with a threat for some damaging straight-line winds and brief tornadoes across northeast Texas tonight, especially along the north of Highway 84, up to Interstate 20, up to 82, into southeast Oklahoma. So, those of you east of these storms in northeast Texas, you're going to get your turn here in a bit. All right, looks like we got a new severe thunderstorm warning for Johnson, Ellis, Hill, Somerville counties. This will be for a line of storms moving on east at 55 miles an hour. The potential for penny-size hail and wind gusts 60 miles per hour. So again, very thin line of storms. These aren't as organized further south as they are up in the Metroplex, but could still have winds 50 to 60 as the storms themselves move east at 60. So when you have storms moving at 60 miles an hour with winds just above the surface at like 70 miles an hour, it doesn't take that much rain to transport down those higher wind gusts. So that's one reason why some of these are producing stronger winds, even though they may not necessarily be super duper impressive looking visually on the weather radar. All right, let's take a look at some of this data. Looks like we've got strong winds now extending from Pilot Point to Aubrey to Krugerville, Crossroads, Lake Dallas, Highland Village, about to cross over the Lake Louisville Bridge, or Louisville Lake Bridge, Flower Mound, South Lake Hollyville, North Richland Hills, Bedford Hurst in the next couple of minutes, moving into downtown Fort Worth as we speak, Benbrook, a little farther southwest, right over the town I can never remember. I'm sorry, Crescent. Moving into Godley, and then eventually be moving into much of Johnson, Ellis, and Hill counties in the next few minutes. Cleburne looks like about 18 minutes, so let's just read it off the list. About 9:36 for Cleburne, 9:42 for Alvarado, 9:45 Grandview, 9:45 Mansfield, 9:51 in Hillsboro, 9:55 in Midlothian, 10 o'clock in Ovilla, 10:04 Glen Heights, 10:06 Waxahachie, 10:08 Red Oak, and then 10:10 for Lancaster as the storms continue moving east at about 60 miles per hour. Again, they're really moving quickly, so they're not going to last long. A brief bout of heavy rain, strong winds, maybe some small hail, a lot of lightning, then it'll be done. Tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day before we get ready to do it all over again Tuesday night and Wednesday, except probably about 200 to 300 miles northwest of where these are right now, at least initially. So this storm in Denton County is starting to bow out a little. Notice how these storms in Tarrant County kind of pretty much extend from Benbrook up to Keller, southwest, northeast, but then we start kind of seeing a bit of a bow shape here in Denton County. We could have some stronger winds moving into places like Crossroads, down 380, eventually towards the Dallas North Tollway, Lake Dallas, Louisville, Highland Village, Corinth. Funny enough, the chasers who are live streaming video on our YouTube channel right now, just north of the Red River, are based out of Louisville down to Coppell. So they could have just stayed home today and probably gotten more visually exciting stuff than what they've seen up in Oklahoma today. Fortunately, while there were a few tornadoes in Oklahoma, the risk did not pan out fully, and we didn't have long track significant tornadoes running up Interstate 44 to the Oklahoma City Metro, which is good because I personally live on the south side of Oklahoma City. Had baseball size hail about half a mile south of me earlier, but alas, you don't care about that. Let's talk about what's going on in the Metroplex. Line of storms in Johnson County really starting to pick up, it looks like. We'll look at the wind mode, and look at that. Just I'll look at this. Sorry, I'm kind of doing some nerd nitpicking here, but that is. When I'm talking about brief spin-up circulations on the leading edge of a squall line, this is what I mean. Notice how there's a little appendage right there that looks like a hook. You switch over to the weather radar, you can see a bit of enhancement with the velocities, only 60 miles an hour, so in all relative speaking, if there was a brief tornado there, it would be quite weak. But you can see winds moving towards the radar about 20, winds moving away at about, let's just say about a 60 to 70 mile an hour rotation. That is enough to produce some stronger winds at the surface. But those are the kinds of circulations we just have to watch for, and they can pop up very quickly and result in quick instances of brief tornadoes or enhanced damaging winds. Keep in mind, there's no tornado warnings at the moment. Let's get that clear. I don't want folks to think I'm screaming tornado, tornado. Trust me, if I was screaming tornado, tornado, I'd turn it into a musical. So, again, line of strong to severe storms, winds of 50, 60, maybe 70 miles an hour. Coming into Whitesboro, down 377 through Collinsville, Tioga, Pilot Point, Aubrey, Krugerville, New Hope. Take a trip down the west side of Louisville Lake. If you were on 35E right now over the Louisville Lake Bridge, storms would be about rolling on to you now. You probably have a nice shelf cloud that'll be moving east over the lake before visiting Little Elm and the Colony over the next 10 minutes. Leading edge of the storms extend from Flower Mound, Colleyville, Haltom City, downtown Fort Worth, southwest into Benbrook, just west of Crowley. Not all of these storms are going to have winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour. Some folks are going to see winds 40, 50, 55 miles an hour. That could still be enough to perhaps cause some minor wind damage, but again, not everyone's going to see significant severe weather here. It would appear my fellow storm chasers who are out chasing today are returning home, which means the dogs are about to go nuts. So those of you in Johnson County, Ellis County, Hill County, Lake Whitney, Hillsborough, Cleburne, Venus, Midlothian, Waxahachie, Burleson, y'all are going to have some storms over the next 30 minutes. Strong winds, brief bout of heavy rain, maybe some small hail, but we're not looking at a significant tornado threat in any shape or form. Unfortunately, I've broken the radar, and it now thinks we're back in the 70s. That might just be my cue to look at different radar data. But, again, all things considered, we're doing pretty well. Yeah, we've got some strong west winds, but these are not tornadic in nature. These are not overly extreme in the sense of widespread power outages or, causing structural damage. These are storms with very gusty winds, perhaps damaging winds, brief bout of heavy rain, maybe some small hail, and then the potential for, again, wind gusts of 50, 60, 70 miles per hour. I have my door locked. Hold on. We're taking a quick trip across the room. Oh, it's okay. There's only 6,000 people watching. Thank you. Merry Christmas to me. Incoming, by the way. All right, my apologies. I had dinner delivery. Okay, so back to it. We have a line of severe storms now extending from Whitesboro down 377 to Aubrey. The potential for winds 55, 60, maybe even locally 70 miles an hour. Extending south to New Hope, Lake Louisville. About to be in Louisville. Grapevine down to downtown Fort Worth. Joshua coming in the city of Cleburne over the next 5 to 8 minutes. The potential for some strong winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour in spots. Otherwise 55, 60. Enough to bring down some tree limbs. Could have some damaged trees that didn't survive last winter's nightmare get knocked down in some of these stronger wind pockets. Small hail, cloud to ground lightning, brief bout of heavy rain. But, again, we need to keep an eye on this little circulation here. Actually, would you look at that? This is the product that shows tornado debris. Notice that blue dot right there coinciding with that circulation. We might actually have a brief tornado down right now, just west-northwest of the city of Cleburne. We'll see what the Weather Service does, but it is entirely plausible. We do have a brief tornado down doing some damage. Little circulation there. You switch over to the debris mode, and this product shows what's apparently a small tornado debris signature. This product is able to scan, take all the data into a computer, and determine if something being detected is different than the others. Raindrops, hail, etc. It's all fairly similar shape. Tornado debris is not. You could have twigs, leaves, shingles, fence posts, stuff like that. And when the radar detects that and realizes, hey, some of this doesn't look like the others, there's a bunch of different shaped objects being detected in this small region, it's able to graphically display that, and we show it as a little blue donut surrounded by red. The red indicates everything's relatively similar shapes and sizes, raindrops. This little donut here is not. So again, I do believe we have a small tornado currently down a few miles west of the city of Cleburne in Johnson County. These don't typically last long. They're not typically strong, but again, a tornado's a tornado. You want to take it seriously, and you don't want to taunt it. I'd recommend going to your smallest or lowest floor, center room, away from windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. And we now have a tornado warning from the National Weather Service in Fort Worth. So let's go ahead and deal with that. Let me clear the telestration. We'll zoom back out. We have a tornado warning for Johnson County. This is a small portion of Johnson County. Let's be clear. Let's talk who's in, who's out. Burleson, you're not in this Godly. You're not in this Rio Vista, Grandview. You are not in the tornado warning. You're in a severe thunderstorm warning, but you're not in a tornado warning. Joshua, Cleburne, Alvarado, Venus, you are in this tornado warning. What's that mean? Well, for one, your phones just went berserk. Two, a lot of you may be tuning in right now. And three, simple. Lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. No mobile homes, no vehicles. Again, a brief tornado has been confirmed about 3.5 to 4 miles west of the city of Cleburne. We'll switch back over to the velocity data, and you can see if there is a brief tornado, it would be right now very close to the city of Cleburne, actually. Let's see if that debris signature is still there. It is not. We had a tornado debris signature about 2 to 3 minutes ago, 4 miles west of the city of Cleburne. That's not uncommon, where we get these brief little tornado spin-ups in damaging winds events where we have a lot of low-level wind shear. The tornadoes can develop very quickly, typically last all of 10 to 30 seconds, or typically on the weak side, but can still produce damage. Winds of 80 to 100 miles per hour, that's enough to cause roof damage, and if it's a trailer, it could cause quite a bit of damage. So that has been what happened, and based on the tornado debris signature, where the radar-detected debris lofted several hundred feet into the air, I can tell you with the utmost certainty, we did have a tornado just about 5 minutes ago, 3 to 4 miles northwest of the city of Cleburne. The circulation's definitely not showing up as much now, but again, they can develop pretty quickly. We can also have winds 60 to 70 mile an hour, straight line winds, similar to what the tornado's intensity may have been. So this is a call to action for those of you in Alvarado, Venus, Briar Oaks, city of Cleburne, everyone in between. Tornado warning. Well, means you go to your lowest floor, center room, away from windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. I think you can realize by the tone of voice I'm using that this isn't one of those long track, violent tornadoes that we dealt with back in the spring months, late April, for example. This is one of these short-lived, pin a dot on a map situations where we can have a spin up for all of 30 seconds. It's gone. A few minutes later, we could have a circulation 10 miles north on the squall line that tries to do the same thing. This is the first time tonight we've seen this happen south of the Red River, but it's been something we've been warning about and watching for all day because there's very strong low-level wind shear. And just because we're dealing with a squall line doesn't mean the tornado threat is zero. It just means that we're not likely to see long-track significant tornadoes. We could still see brief tornadoes spin up on the leading edge of the squall line. So that's why we've got a tornado warning for portions of Johnson County. We'll see if the National Weather Service in Fort Worth lets this go all the way to 10 p.m. or if it gets canceled early. But the circulation for the second is weaker. If it's there, it's in the city of Cleburne right now or just east of town. So hopefully, with that being said, nothing is down in the city of Cleburne. It was about 6 to 7 minutes ago, about 4 miles west of the city of Cleburne. We'll take a look now at the remainder of the squall line. We've got strong storms moving in into the west side of Arlington now. West side of DFW Airport, moving across Louisville, moving into Little Elm, about to be in Frisco and Prosper, Salina, Gunter, and then eventually be crossing over Highway 289 around Dorchester into the city of Sherman, Knollwood, Pottsboro in the next 15 minutes. Potential for straight line winds, 55, 60, maybe even 70 miles an hour in spots. Brief round of heavy rain. A lot of cloud to ground lightning and the potential, again, we can't rule out a few brief tornadoes. But otherwise, the only tornado warning we have in the state right now is with this thunderstorm over the city of Cleburne. We had a brief tornado confirmed about 8 minutes ago, 4 miles west of Cleburne. If there was one down now, it would likely be approaching Highway 67 and 67 Business, where it splits off east of town. And this is moving up 67 towards the city of Alvarado. Again, potential for damage to straight line winds, 60 to 70 miles an hour. Can't rule out brief tornadoes that can cause locally enhanced damage. So those of you in Alvarado and Venus, you need to take your tornado safety precautions. And we advise no travel on Interstate 35W between Briar Oaks and Grandview. Wind-wise, you're not going to want to be on the interstate between Hillsborough and, well, Denton for at least a little while until this line of storms moves east. Fortunately, it's moving east at 60 miles an hour, so it's not lasting very long at any given location. I'm going to keep an eye on this thunderstorm southwest of Rio Vista 2 down to Blum. You can see it's kind of appendagey, almost a tail-end Charlie type situation. Kind of has a supercellular appearance, so we'll have to see if that tries to tighten up as it moves northeast towards Grandview, Itasca, and then eventually southwest Ellis County over the next 30 minutes. You can adjust this up and down. Dun-dun-dun. So again, it's pouring. The dogs are probably snoring. In downtown Fort Worth, Crowley, Burleson, all the way up to DFW International Airport, Louisville, Highland Village. It's about to be done with the rain in the city of Denton. Prosper, it's about to pour. Salina, it's about to pour. Pilot Point, Aubrey, you're about to be done with the rain. Again, these storms aren't lasting long at all, as they're moving east at 60 miles per hour. Drink some water. And again, we typically only talk about the most intense storms just because I'm one person and Texas tends to have more storms than one person can handle. But you can keep an eye on the storms yourselves with our interactive weather radar, texasstormchasers.com/radar, or just download our free mobile app. It's got the radar there as well. Let's go ahead and do a reset. I'm going to turn some of the city names down because there's a lot of them. Let me switch radar sources real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and do a loop of the radar. We note that storms are trying to develop farther southwest into the eastern hill country and western central Texas. Those aren't severe at this point, but they could try to become stronger with some small hail, gusty winds, and brief heavy rain. We'll do a radar loop over the last, well, apparently few hours. You could see how quickly these thunderstorms initiated and then took off. From Wichita Falls down 281 all the way just east of Abilene earlier. Looks like Abilene had a 61-mile-an-hour wind gust several hours ago, and you can see the storms with the cool front dry line combination flying east at 50 to 60 miles an hour. We've been fortunate we haven't had any discrete supercells with this event, because if we did, they'd probably be putting down mile-wide tornadoes that stayed down for 50 miles. Fortunately, that has not happened. I don't think it's going to happen. Would I ever rule it out? No, because challenging Mother Nature is not something I ever want to do. It's just not smart. So again, this is what radar looks like. Storms moving east 50 to 60 miles an hour. Once the storms move past your location, it's done. No more storms tonight. Next chance of stronger storms will be Wednesday in North Texas. Zooming back into the DFW Metroplex, we'll just, well, let this play out real quick. You can see flying east, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, boom. Already almost the 360 in Tarrant County. So reason we're here is technically because of tornado warning now for portions of Johnson County, a circulation riding up 67 towards the city of Alvarado. This isn't your classic super duper obvious circulation that you'd see in some of our more intense supercells, or you may have seen on April 29th this year when we were doing live coverage in a relatively similar area, in fact. But this is definitely a circulation that could put down another brief tornado. We had a brief tornado touchdown now about 15 minutes ago, about 4 miles west-northwest of the city of Cleburne, that had a tornado debris signature show up on radar. And those are the kind of circulations we have to deal with tonight. They typically only last a few seconds or weak, but they can spin up and spin back down again in a real hurry. But fortunately, we're not dealing with long track significant tornadoes tonight. So let's take a look at the velocity data, the how hard the winds are blowing mode. We've got some very strong winds showing up in portions of Grayson County. We're looking several thousand feet above the surface, but it would make sense. We're seeing some 60, 65 mile an hour winds being transported down to the surface. That'll be moving into Pottsboro, down 289 to Gunter over the next 10 to 15 minutes. Shortly thereafter, we'll be talking about Denison, Knollwood, Sherman, Van Alstyne, and Howell. Salina, Prosper, Frisco, it's about to be pouring and blowing. Won't be more than 10, 15 minutes for Anna, Melissa, McKinney, Fairview, Allen. And we just had a 70-mile-an-hour wind gust reported at DFW International Airport, which is right there. So even though we look at the velocity data, the winds on the radar showing 30 miles an hour, they're twice that. So again, we just had 70-mile-an-hour winds reported in the city, or DFW International Airport. Terminal Doppler weather radar data is showing winds of 55 to 70 miles an hour moving into Carrollton, Farmers Branch, Irving. Strong winds are kind of extending out ahead of the rain. You can kind of see that with this little blue outflow boundary. So the very strong winds may start a couple minutes before rain starts as this moves into Dallas County. Same thing goes for Arlington, Grand Prairie. It's about to pour in Pantego. It probably already is. Mansfield, Joe Pool Lake. 360 all the way down to 287. It's about to pour. Same thing goes for Cowboy Stadium, Six Flags over Texas. We're seeing strong winds across southern Tarrant County, and then we've got this storm in Johnson County that put down a brief tornado about 15 minutes ago, 4 miles west of the city of Cleburne, with a tornado debris signature. And we still got a little circulation showing up with this. Couple miles southwest of Alvarado, moving right up 67 towards Alvarado, and then eventually could impact the town of Venus. It's not a overly strong signature or one we would expect a long-lived significant tornado, but this thing has a history of putting one tornado down. It could put another brief tornado down at any time. We're not seeing any signs of tornado debris right now, though, but we're definitely going to keep an eye on it. The circulation, latest scan actually maybe a little tighter. We'll switch back over to the velocity data, let that update. And see that circulation now is a bit tighter now, coming up on Interstate 35W on the south side of Alvarado. The potential for a brief tornado, or at least winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour. And now we have a massive severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued. This one I'll zoom on in up here, and I'm going to actually just read off the warning text because, well, there's a lot of counties. This is for Rockwall, Hunt, Kaufman, Denton, Tarrant, Collin, Dallas, Grayson, Fannin counties until 10:45 p.m. Severe storms were located along a line extending from Pottsboro to Frisco to Rendon, moving east at 40 miles an hour. So the Weather Service thinks the storms have slowed down a bit here in North Texas. They were moving 50 to 60 a bit earlier. Wouldn't be shocked if that's a thing. But again, at the current speed, it'll be in Sherman about 10 p.m., Duncanville 10:02, Plano 10:02, Mesquite 10:03, McKinney 10:04, Rowlett 10:05, Wiley 10:07, Rockwall 10:13, Forney 10:15, Royce City about 10:23, and then Bonham at 10:31. Potential for 60 to 70 mile an hour winds from Plano to the east side of DFW International Airport, Carrollton, Richardson, Northwest Dallas, including Dallas Love Field, and Irving over the next 10 minutes. Potential for 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. Could cause power outages, bring down some tree limbs, maybe throw a few shingles around, and of course, probably knock down some wooden fences that will have to be repaired. Do have a tornado warning for another 18 minutes for portions of eastern Johnson County. The circulation coming into Alvarado right now would then pass near or about a mile or two south of Venus and Highway 67 in about 10 minutes. We'll see if the Weather Service chooses to extend this tornado warning into Ellis County in a bit, but they've still got some time. This circulation isn't one where we expect significant long-track tornadoes, but it already put down one brief tornado west of Cleburne about 20 minutes ago. It might try and put another one down at any point, which is why there's a tornado warning. Tornado warning means you take your tornado safety precautions if you're in the polygon, and you don't have to if you're not, even though there's severe thunderstorm warnings that cover this entire region. So you definitely still want to pay attention to the weather. Alvarado, you should have been in your safe place 15 minutes ago. Same thing for you, Venus. Take your safety precautions, lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Put on some hard sole shoes. And I mean, if you got a baseball helmet or a bicycle helmet, get that too. These storms won't last long, only 5 to 10 minutes, and then they're gone. Excuse me. Like, look at some data here. No new information over the last few minutes, which isn't a bad thing, usually. So let's go ahead, zoom back out. We'll give a regional look again. Let me get rid of some of these town names. Switch back over to our regional radar, and we'll take a look at, well, the whole region. Storms now east of Oklahoma City by quite a ways, making their way towards Tulsa and Fort Smith, Arkansas here in North Texas. Sherman to DFW Airport to Grand Prairie down to almost Hillsboro. And then storms are starting to intensify now in the Hill Country, heading towards Waco and eventually Temple, the city of Austin. Those folks could be in for some rowdy storms with some strong winds, maybe some small hail, heavy rain and lightning over the next 2 hours or so. Still to be determined if they develop far enough south to actually bring any rain to San Antonio late tonight or early tomorrow morning, but it could be a possibility. And then eventually we do expect a broken line of storms to move across the Brazos Valley, East Texas, Northeast Texas, and even Southeast Texas later tonight, and then the storm should be in Southeast Texas, like Houston, by 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, but in a much weakened state. Storm should be starting to chill after about 1 to 2 a.m., and then south of Highway 84, there's less upper level dynamics available for storms, so they shouldn't be as rowdy as storms could be a bit farther to the north, where we have better low level wind shear, a better combination of shear, lift, and instability. So that is what we have going on right now. Zooming back into North Texas, where we have the most intense thunderstorms. Orange boxes are severe thunderstorm warnings. You can see those extend from near Bonham to Greenville all the way east to Terrell now, Ennis, and then eventually we'll see a severe storm warning for places like Corsicana and Navarro County. Only a single tornado warning so far this evening, and that is for a circulation coming up towards Venus now, east of Alvarado, well east of Keene and Cleburne. If you're in Cleburne, the rain's stopping now. You're done. You're clear. Keene, you're clear from the tornado warning. Alvarado, you are clear from the tornado warning. Venus, tornado possibly could pass a mile or two south of town within the next 5 minutes, and then we'll get you clear too. So let's go ahead. We'll stop the loopy-loopy. We'll turn on the high-res radar data, and we'll take a look at what we have going on now. You can see definitely not your typical supercell. There is a little bit of a circulation east of Alvarado now. This data is a couple minutes old, so it'll update and the circulation will be much closer to Venus. Not something that screams imminent tornado production, but at the same time, storms like this can put down brief tornadoes quickly. Radar is showing very strong winds in the city of Mansfield, probably 65 to 70 mile an hour straight line winds moving into Mansfield right now. Then south side of Arlington, south side of Grand Prairie, eventually over Joe Pool Lake, and then it'll be coming up on Cedar Hill, the Mount Lebanon Baptist camp on the south side of Cedar Hill, and then the north sides of Midlothian. I think Alec wants you, Stephen. He was out there. Strong winds, 55, 60 miles an hour moving into South Arlington. About to cross over 360 into South Grand Prairie and then Duncanville, Cedar Hill. These storms moving east at 40, 50 miles an hour. Strong winds. We had a 70 mile an hour wind gust at DFW International Airport. And those strong winds are now moving into places like Richardson, Plano, eventually Garland, Rowlett, Mesquite, and, well, North Dallas, of course. Good news is, storms up in Collin County and Grayson County aren't looking as intense. As we look at how hard the wind's blowing mode, you don't see a super clear signal of strong outflow winds. A lot of these pinks you're seeing are actually winds ahead of the storms being detected by the weather radar, because we have a very strong low-level jet. Winds just about 1,000 or 2 feet above the surface are about 70 miles an hour out of the due south right now, south-southwest. So it doesn't take much to get some gusty winds transported down, but these storms don't necessarily look super organized at the moment. Storms across Dallas County, Johnson County, and Hill County do look organized, though. I'm still watching this little storm west of Itasca near Covington. It's definitely got an interesting appearance, almost a supercellular shape to it. Notice how there's almost a break in the squall line where you go from Venus to Grandview, and then it kind of shifts southwest. We're going to keep an eye on that. That's the kind of a signature we have to watch, given the impressive low-level kinematics wind shear in place. But right now, there is no sign of any organized low-level rotation with this thunderstorm. And then storms farther southwest that could produce some gusty winds, but are not currently severe. From Clifton, about to move into Gatesville, about to move into Lampasas, Delano. Well northwest of Fredericksburg for now. Fredericksburg, you'll be getting in on some storms here before too much longer. It looks like if they develop far enough southwest, they could visit Kerrville, as this part of the line actually moves southeast towards Fredericksburg and Kerrville. I just switched the weather radar, so there's actually a different look, and you can see these storms, maybe some small hail, gusty winds, brief heavy rain. Good lightning show. So again, if you're in places like Van Alstyne, Anna, Melissa, McKinney, Allen, Plano, let's see, that's going to be Richardson, Highland Park, University Park, Dallas, Love Field, the entire city of Dallas, down to Duncanville to Midlothian, you're likely to get 50 to 60 mile an hour winds possibly in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Same thing goes for y'all in Ellis County, with these storms coming on in from Tarrant and Johnson counties. So we switch back over to the which way the wind is blowing mode. You can actually see, while the reflectivity doesn't indicate a very strong thunderstorm per se in the hail department, the wind department actually showing winds just off the surface of about 65 to 70 miles per hour. Moving across much of Mansfield right now, South Arlington towards Joe Pool Lake, South Grand Prairie, Cedar Hill, the Mount Lebanon Baptist encampment off 67. And again, if there was a storm that concerned me the most right now, just visually besides the wind structure, it's going to be this thunderstorm in Northern Hill County, because it's trying to develop a supercellular look to it. And that's not good when you have the amount of wind shear we have in place right now. So we're going to watch this thing like a hawk, because we don't need supercell structures when you have low-level wind shear as strong as it is tonight. That's just asking for problems in the spinny department. Okay, looking back at the which way and how hard the wind's blowing mode, again, the pinks indicate winds 60 to 65 miles an hour all across Mansfield, South Arlington, South Grand Prairie, moving towards Duncanville, Joe Pool Lake, Cedar Hill, Midlothian. We've got similar winds across Irving, Farmers Branch, Carrollton, moving towards Richardson right now. Very strong winds being indicated. A lot of lightning as well. Winds 60 miles an hour possible, along with some very strong, or I should say very strong, very heavy rain, some small hail. You can see very strong winds being indicated, about 70 miles an hour. Irving, west side of Dallas, towards Farmers Branch, moving into North Dallas, towards Dallas Love Field. So very strong winds moving into Dallas County. Northwest Ellis County. We have a storm trying to obtain supercellular characteristics in Northern Hill County with its own little bean shape. That's not great. And then these storms in Dallas County are being rather rambunctious in the lightning, rain, wind department, which is also not great. So moving east at about 40 to 50 miles per hour still. Storms up in Grayson County, Collin County, moving towards Hunt County and Fannin County, could produce some winds up to 60, 65 miles an hour in spots, but they are not as impressive looking compared to the storms in Dallas County. Still, with as much wind as we have aloft tonight, it doesn't take that much to pull down some of the stronger winds to the surface. And again, I'll just switch back to this. We'll just do a quick 1 hour loop. This is just over the past hour. You can see how quickly these storms are moving. They are booking, going from essentially Decatur in Weatherford, already making it to Dallas in an hour. That's impressive. That's about 50 to 60 miles per hour movement for sure. And it's no wonder we have some strong winds making it down to the surface. You can keep an eye on the storms, interactive weather radar on our website, texasstormchasers.com/radar, or in our mobile app. We've got live streaming storm chase video on YouTube. In fact, I can just turn that on real fast, I suppose. The show. Well, that's my head. That's not really storm chasing. That's better. You can see these folks are up near the Red River. Quite a lightning show. Meteorologist Jason Cooley and Alex Bartholomew. We'll have to keep an eye out. These storms are producing a lot of heavy rain as well. So with that in mind, some brief street flooding's possible. I might need a new mouse. Strong winds. A lot of cloud to ground lightning. Tornado warning for Johnson County is gone, so we have severe thunderstorm warnings. The tornado warning is still showing up on that map, but it's gone officially. So we'll keep an eye on things. What I'm going to do now is we're going to take a break for about 10 minutes. I will be back by 10:05 to 10:10, sooner if necessary. But by that point, we should have storms approaching Bonham, Farmersville, Mesquite, Seagoville, down to Waxahachie, the potential for strong straight line winds, 50, 60, maybe 70 miles an hour, and small hail, heavy rain. Can't rule out a brief tornado, but so far we've been lucky in that department. We've just had one confirmed tornado, and that was earlier, about 40 miles west, or 40, excuse me, 4 miles west of the city of Cleburne, down in Johnson County. So we'll be back by 10:10 p.m., sooner if necessary. I'm David Reimer with the Texas Storm Chasers. And YouTube, I'm going to actually keep you on. So YouTube, here's what we're going to do. I am just going to keep the radar data on for now. And once I'm back, I'll just start narrating again. But I'm going to quickly eat dinner, get some water, pet the dog because the dog demands petting, and we'll be back if necessary. Again, strong winds with these storms, and definitely need to watch this little supercell trying to take shape in Northern Hill County. That could be problematic if that actually manages to sustain itself. So be back in about 10 minutes or so, hopefully. I'm David Reimer, BRB. All right, I am back. My apologies. I needed to take care of that dinner real quick. Obviously, Mother Nature was a jerk and decided to produce a tornado warning in the 10 minutes I was gone. We're going to cover that moving towards Waxahachie and Ennis and Maypearl. Give me just a second. I need to get all the live streams back on. Whew. Boy, let me tell you, you run around quick when you see that happening. So my apologies, I'm back. I just need to get back on Facebook again, so you kind of get to see how the sausage is made. And then we'll be back on and we'll resume our coverage. Okay. All right. All right. All right, we're going to go live. All right, my apologies. We are back. I'm David Reimer with the Texas Storm Chasers. The time is 10:12 on 10th of October 2021. Let's go ahead and cover what we have to deal with. It's going to be a tornado warning now for Ellis County. This runs for another 18 minutes. This includes the cities of Maypearl, Italy, Waxahachie, Ennis, Bardwell, Palmer, Alma. Technically, Ferris does not include Midlothian, Venus, Rice, or Pecan Hill, or Red Oak. Quick, we're going to press some buttons here. Now, what I want to check is the radar velocity. And yeah, we do have a circulation with this thunderstorm. It's relatively broad for the moment, but it is definitely there. This was a storm just before I took my little break that I said was somewhat supercellular in nature, and that definitely continues now. Unlike the storms that are completely linear in a line, you can see this thunderstorm has a bit of an inflow notch. It's an embedded supercell, which is something we knew could happen tonight, but didn't want to see. So we definitely need to keep an eye on this. Conditions are certainly favorable for the development of tornadoes, which is why we have a tornado warning. Farther north, it's a squall line now from DeSoto and Lancaster up to the east side of Dallas, coming into Mesquite, Balk Springs, Garland, Wiley, Richardson, Rowlett, St. Paul, Lucas, about to move into Farmersville, over Blue Ridge, Trenton, Whitewright, up to Bells, just west of Bonham. These storms are severe and capable of producing damaging straight-line winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour, brief heavy rain that could cause street flooding, small hail, and the potential for a lot of lightning. Straight-line winds could produce some wind damage, potential for some knockdown fences, power outages, damaged trees, and the potential for a brief tornado or two. But and on vice versa, same thing goes from Hillsborough down to Velling Mills. Potential for some strong storms, maybe severe in Waco in the next 30 minutes. We'll see how the storms farther southwest look, but we note they are continuing to develop farther southwest along the cool front dry line combination, now coming into Kerrville. Well, I say that it's still west of Kerrville, but you can see a solid line of storms west of Kerrville, west of Fredericksburg, west of Kingsland, just west of Burnett, about to exit Lamb Passes, moving into Killeen and Fort Hood. In Gatesville right now, still west of Waco, near Valley Mills and Crawford, currently over Hillsborough. Those storms currently not severe, but do have gusty winds, could produce some minor wind damage, do have the potential to become stronger with the threat for damaging straight line winds and some small hail, but by far for the moment, this storm in Ellis County is the most dangerous. We'll switch back over to the reflectivity for now, and let's talk about who's in this tornado warning polygon and who is not. Midlothian, Pecan Hill, Milford, Rice, Roser, you are not in this tornado warning polygon. You've got some severe storms in the area, mind you, but you're not at imminent threat of a tornado from this specific storm. Midlothian, you're done. It's going to be done raining in Midlothian within 5 minutes. Those of you in the tornado warning, Maypearl, this is just east of you. You should have been in shelter 10 minutes ago. Waxahachie, you need to move to shelter. Bardwell, Ennis, Alma, Garrett, Palmer, Beverly Ferris, you're in the tornado warning polygon. That means you need to take your tornado safety precautions. Lowest floor, center room, away from windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. No travel trailers, no mobile homes, no vehicles. Switch it from the how hard it's raining mode to the which way the wind's blowing mode. And yeah, you can see we definitely do have a broad circulation there in combination with that hook echo showing up on the radar. I mean, it's not overly super strong right now. We've got about 40 miles an hour moving towards the radar in South Fort Worth, about 30 miles away. So a broad mesocyclone of about 80 to 90 miles per hour of shear. And definitely we have that hook echo right there. This isn't like the storm we had to deal with earlier that was more linear. This one actually has a bit of supercellular characteristics. So that's why we're paying a little more attention to it. If it puts a tornado down, it may not necessarily be the super brief, super weak variety. Not that any tornado should be assumed to be super weak, but at the same time, we do have a lot of low-level wind shear tonight. These same areas already know what it's like to have to deal with tornadoes. We were doing this show and dance on April 29th, these same exact areas. In fact, our coverage is still up. You can go watch me literally talking about these same areas months ago. Looking at the velocity data again, it sounds like we have a second circulation that has managed to develop. Let's go ahead and take a peekster at that. And yeah, we do. First circulation, south of Waxahachie, about to cross over Interstate 35 near Forreston, much like we did on April 29th of this year. Second circulation now developing over Italy. This one, little appendage right there, is going to be moving up towards Bardwell on Highway 34, eventually Bardwell Lake, then Ennis and Garrett. So two potential tornadoes now in Ellis County, one near Forreston, second near Italy, both moving northeast at about 50 miles an hour. These things are flying. They don't have to stop for stop signs, the construction on 35E, traffic lights, and obviously they don't have to worry about traffic. So it's the middle of the night, it's dark, you're not likely to see this thing unless it hits a transformer or something and that blows up and briefly illuminates it. But even that is difficult to see in the middle of the night, even for experienced storm chasers. And if you're not an experienced storm chaser, you don't need to be out trying to chase this thing in the middle of the night when it's moving 50 miles an hour. Okay, yeah, it's storming, it's pouring. Eastern Dallas County, DeSoto, Lancaster, Glen Heights, all the way up into east side of Dallas, Sunnyvale, Mesquite, about to be pouring in Bulk Springs, Garland, Rockwall, Nevada, Farmersville, Wiley, Saxe, St. Paul, Lucas. Once these storms exit your area to the east, you're done. No more severe storms tonight. Tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Next chance for some active weather is Tuesday night and Wednesday as another upper level storm system approaches, but we'll have to see if that system goes a bit too far north to give North Texas any sort of mischievous severe weather issues. We'll switch back. Actually, you know what? Let's do a storm track on this while we have it up. I'm going to do a manual storm track, though. Let's just do a large area storm track moving east at about, I'm going to do 50. Some parts of this line may be moving a little faster, some may be moving slower. And I'm going to actually draw it a little out ahead. Okay, do this at about 50. Okay, 1021 for Roy City. 1024 for Seagoville, 1029 for Ennis, 1034 for Terrell, 1038 for Commerce, 1044 for Corsicana, 1050 for Wills Point, 1052 for Paris, 11 o'clock for Currens, 1101 for Gun Barrel City and Sulphur Springs, 1102 for Maybank and Tool and Malakoff and Blossom 1104 Malakoff at 1114. Again, these storms are producing strong winds, west 50 to 60, perhaps even 70 miles per hour. And we have a potential for 2 tornadoes currently in Ellis County, one near Italy, one approaching Forreston, both moving northeast at 50 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and take a look at those again. We're going to look back in on the which way the wind's blowing mode. And you can definitely see they're not your classic supercellular gate-to-gate circulations. They're not like the circulations we saw on April 29th of this year. Let me go ahead and circle them for you. These are circulations that could produce brief tornadoes. Uno. Dos. Switch over to the reflectivity mode. You'll see one circulation near Forreston, second just northeast of Italy. You notice the little appendages on those. That's how we can see brief tornadoes on the leading edges of a squall line, in addition to the damaging straight line winds. If we do get a tornado, they're likely going to be brief, short-lived, and probably on the weaker variety. That being said, you still don't want one hitting your house, so you got to treat them seriously. A tornado warning should be taken seriously regardless. So Ferris, Palmer, Garrett, Ennis, Alma on Interstate 45, you're in a tornado warning. That means no travel is recommended on Interstate 45 between Rice and Hutchins. No travel on 35E for about another 15 minutes between Carl's Corner and Glen Heights. After that, you will be good to go. No travel on 287 between Alma and Waxahachie. Even if there's not a tornado, it's not going to be fun for the next 20 minutes. And if you're on Highway 34 between Italy and Bardwell, well, I'd go northeast and quickly. So that's what we have going on with that right now. Storms extending from Dallas County up through Kaufman County, Rockwall County, Collin County, Hunt County, up into Fannin County are capable of producing some winds of 55, 60, maybe even 70 miles an hour in spots. West of this line, if you are west of Interstate 35E, west of Highway 75, from, well, Durant, Oklahoma, all the way south to Dallas, you're done. Once this line of storms moves east of you, you're done. It's going to be a beautiful night. It's going to get cooler. Tomorrow's going to be a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And then we note also we have storms developing farther southwest. They're not severe at this time, but could have some gusty winds, small hail from Gatesville to Lampasas, just west of Burnett and Marble Falls, down to probably a good 10 to 20 miles northwest of Fredericksburg, and probably another 5 to 10 miles west of Kerrville. Good lightning show, no doubt, if you're west of the squall line. Beautiful clear skies. You're undoubtedly getting a beautiful lightning show to the east. Those of you east of the storms are probably still seeing the lightning to the west, too, although it is not as pleasant in terms of the humidity. But the good news is we have not heard of any confirmed tornado reports with these storms in Ellis County. The only confirmed tornado report we had was about an hour ago, and that was 4 miles west-northwest of Cleburne when we had a tornado debris signature, which means there was a tornado because, well, an ordinary thunderstorm doesn't launch debris 500 feet into the air. That's a tornado. A tornado is simply an updraft. It launches things up. Some tornadoes, the weak kind, only launch small objects up about maybe 1,000 feet. Stronger tornadoes that hit a town can launch debris 30,000 feet into the air. And the radar actually is able to determine what's debris and what's a hydrometeor. Okay, it looks like we have a new tornado warning until 11 p.m. for Ellis. It's going to be a new tornado warning now until 11 p.m. This is essentially an extension of the old one. Technically does not include the city of Waxahachie. It includes areas just southeast of Waxahachie. It includes Palmer. It includes Garrett. It includes Ennis. It includes Alma. It includes areas east of Italy. Up Highway 34 to Bardwell, Alma, Ennis. So it's going to be a tornado warning until 11 p.m. Central Time. Lowest floor, center room, away from windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. We have the potential of a tornado near Italy or 12 miles southwest of Ennis, moving northeast at 50. That's 50 miles per hour. About 15 minutes away or less, 10 to 15 minutes from Ennis, about 10 to 15 minutes away from Alma. If this specific circulation were to continue in its present shape and form, which, I mean, it probably won't, but I can't rule it out, it will be crossing Highway 175 near Kemp at 11:09 and near Maybank at 11:16. I think it's a good chance that the storm will be there by then, but whether or not this thing still has a circulation is certainly questionable. Switching back over to the which way the wind's blowing mode, yeah, we can definitely still see some broad circulations. Again, we're not going to see very strong supercellular type circulations tonight with the squall line. These are likely very transient circulations on the leading edge that can produce quick spin-up tornadoes. Got one there. Got one there. Southern one, it would be in a better position to maintain itself over the next 10 minutes, while the northern one may just go away, which would be perfectly fine with me. So, again, moving northeast, Ennis, Alma, tornado warning. Take your tornado safety precautions. Northern circulation. It's going to be... not letting me turn off the telestrator. Moving towards Garrett and Palmer. Northern circulation doesn't look as impressive right now. It looks fairly weak. Does that mean it can't ramp back up? No, but I'm keeping more of an eye on this southern one at the moment. And again, regardless of if there's a tornado down or not, we've got damaging straight line winds of 55 to 65 miles an hour. Whether or not straight line winds or a weak tornado honestly doesn't matter too much. Both can produce damage, so that's why you should still be paying attention. Storms have exited downtown Dallas. If you're in Dallas to the west, you're done. It's good. The skies are about to clear out. It's going to be a beautiful night. Tomorrow's going to be a beautiful day in the neighborhood, even if it is a Monday. These storms up from Bonham to Leonard to Celeste, Caddo Mills, west of Greenville. Notice how they're starting to take a bit more of a Bowie shape. Notice how we have a couple of appendages pushing out the rain farther east. That indicates some stronger winds. So it's definitely probable we have some winds that could do damage. Coming into Honey Grove soon, Greenville, down to Royce City. The potential for straight line winds out of the west at 60 to 70 miles an hour, which can knock down trees, cause power outages. Not great. But the good news is this activity is almost east of the entire DFW Metroplex. What does that mean? Well, for me, nothing. We're going to be here covering it until this event is concluded. For those of you watching on DFW Scanner, that means you'll get to get rid of my bald head shortly. And we'll just continue our streaming on the Texas Storm Chaser services. I do want to thank John Bergdorf, the owner of DFW Scanner, for graciously allowing me to stream this live coverage on his platforms when we have impacts in the DFW Metroplex, because the more folks paying attention to the weather means the less folks likely to, well, get caught by surprise and have unpleasant situations develop. So you can keep an eye on all these storms, by the way, with our weather radar on our website, texasstormchasers.com/radar, and our mobile app, Texas Storm Chasers, in your phone or tablet's device store. And we're just focusing on the most intense storms because I'm just one weather leprechaun. I can't do everything. So we tend to focus on the most pressing storms when doing live coverage, but y'all are able to also keep an eye on storms in your own neck of the woods or on the other side of the country if you want with that weather radar. That's why we pay for it, and that is why we offer it as a free service. Okay, so let's just look at, not that, base velocity. We're just looking at seeing if we see any super impressive wind signatures. Again, the radar is showing quite an impressive wind signature over eastern Dallas County. These are winds about 2,000 feet aloft, so maybe 50 to 60 miles per hour down at the surface. The only tornado warning we have is this circulation southwest of Bardwell heading northeast up 34 at 50 miles an hour towards Ennis and Alma. I'm going to look up a few tilts, and this is looking up several thousand feet. Let me see if I can get the fancy super duper tool to tell me. See, this is looking up at about 5,500 feet above the surface. So we're looking 5,500 feet above the surface right now. And you can see we've got a pretty good signature of rotation there. We've got about 30 mile an hour moving towards the radar in Fort Worth, about 50 away. So the reason we have a tornado warning is that circulation could descend and become, well, a tornado at some point, hence the tornado warning. So even though the circulation may not necessarily look as impressive closer down to the surface right now, aloft it looks quite impressive, which is why we have a tornado warning. All right, Cleburne, Red Oak, let's look at this. Let's give some folks some clearing. If you're west of a line from Sherman to McKinney to downtown Dallas, to Waxahachie, to Hillsborough, you're done. No more storms tonight. Johnson County, you're clear. Most of Dallas County, west of the storms, you're clear. Tarrant, Denton, Collin counties, you're mostly clear. These storms are moving east at 650 miles an hour or so. If these storms are east of you, you're done. The only tornado we know that happened was about an hour and a half ago, about 4 miles west-northwest of Cleburne. The radar detected tornado debris being lofted several hundred feet, and so that's a confirmed tornado. We don't have any ground information, at least none that I've seen, because I've been doing weather coverage of what that damage may have been. It could have been a fence post, a barn, hopefully not a house, something like that. And I'm sure the news folks will have the story on it, but I have not had a chance to look, and we are going to keep on with the ongoing weather that is a threat to life and property. And we'll let the news folks handle what has already happened, and we can also look back on that after the event has concluded. So again, if we have a tornado, it's going to be very near Bardwell right now, moving northeast at 50 miles an hour towards Ennis and Alma. Clear message here is those of you in Ennis, Alma, and Bardwell, and everyone in between, need to be in your tornado safe places immediately. That's your lowest floor, center room, away from windows. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. You should have been in shelter 20 minutes ago when the first tornado warning was issued, but alas, we know. We like to procrastinate. That's what we do. So, no, go to shelter. Even if there's not a tornado down, there's likely strong straight-line winds 60 to 70 miles an hour, and that in itself can cause some minor structural damage, knock over power lines and trees, and cause all sorts of mischief. I believe there's almost 60,000 people in the Metroplex without power. It beats the 3 million that had no power in February, but still not great whatsoever. Excuse me. All right. So that's the story right now. This isn't a classic supercell. This is a squall line with a potential for damaging straight line winds and a brief tornado. You can see where the squall line is mainly a north-south oriented wind shift, except here near Bardwell where it kind of turns southeast for a mile or so. That's where we can have a quick tornado spin up due to enhanced low-level storm mode of helicity and shear. in addition to straight line winds. In places like Red Oak right now, radar is detecting strong winds, could have 60, 65 mile an hour winds in Red Oak, Pecan Hill, Ferris, Palmer, Wilmer right now. Same thing with these storms moving into Rockwall County, eastern Denton County, up into, well, far southeastern Collin County, Hunt County, Fannin County. These storms eventually are going to make it to places like Paris, Sulphur Springs, Emory, Canton, all the way down to Athens, Corsicana, Groesbeck, and Temple. We've got strong storms that are technically not severe, but still quite loud in the thunder department, capable of producing some 45 to 55 mile an hour winds in northern McLennan County, moving into Lacey, Lakeview, Belmead, Waco, Woodway, Hewitt, Hallsburg. It's pouring and storming in west right now. It's pouring and storming in Crawford and McGregor as well. Here, let's actually switch weather radar data. And we'll take a look-sees at Granger. You can see, yeah, it's about to storm in Waco. But that storm is far less intense than the storms currently farther north. You can see, looking at radar, we do have some stronger winds being indicated around Burnett with a stronger storm. There's some 60 mile an hour winds aloft, some stronger winds 50 to 55 miles an hour around Killeen and Fort Hood. Whether or not those winds are making it down to the surface, I don't know, but you can see storms still developing farther southwest, so it does look like it's going to storm this evening in San Antonio. Same for Austin, Round Rock, Temple. The risk for an isolated severe storm or two exists, but the storms are less organized in the damaging wind department and hail-wise than farther northeast, so hopefully we don't have much in the way of damaging winds down here tonight, but a quick round of rain, some gusty northwest winds, and lightning are expected. All right, let's go back up into North Texas. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning that covers more real estate than is probably necessary at times, but severe thunderstorm warning for Rockwall, Hunt, Kaufman, Van Zant, Hopkins, Rains, Lamar, Delta, and Fannin counties. Going to be severe storms located along a line from 11 miles southeast of Albany to near Greenville to near Combine, moving east at 60. So these storms are moving east at 60, and they don't have to stop for traffic lights or stop signs. Locations impacted include Greenville, Paris, Terrell, Sulphur Springs, Seagoville, Forney, Commerce, Kaufman, Canton, Wills Point, Royce City, Grand Saline, Crandall, Cooper, Combine, Honeygrove, West Walkeny, Talty, Blossom, and Edgewood. So if you just heard your town's name or I mispronounced it, well, first, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your town's name. Longtime viewers know that's a tradition by now. And second, you've got some strong winds, a lot of lightning, and a brief round of heavy rain heading your way. All right, I'm going to look back down with this circulation coming into the city of Ennis. We'll switch back to the which way the wind's blowing mode. And to be honest, yeah, there's still a circulation showing up, but it's not overly evident that it's putting a tornado down. Strong winds, yes. Is there a tornado down? I can't tell you for sure, but I mean, yeah, I could put a brief tornado down at any time. This isn't like a supercellular event where we have a individual storm with a well-defined storm, or excuse me, a well-defined couplet. This is a squall line, hit or miss on a map. Could circulation, brief tornado could be there one scan, next scan, it's gone. I gotta make sure I'm still live. Yeah. I mean, you could sing if you want. I'm sure people will enjoy that. Okay, that's enough. Okay, so a tornado warning remains in effect for eastern Ellis County for another 22 minutes or so. Ennis, Alma, you should be in shelter. Palmer, Garrett, if there's a circulation, it's probably south of you, but you're technically in the tornado warning, so treat it seriously. If you're in Waxahachie, you're done. It's not even raining anymore. Italy, rain's over in 5 minutes, you're clear. Glen Heights, Red Oak, Pecan Hill, you're done, clear. pretty much the entire DFW Metroplex except those in Rockwall County, Kaufman County, Navarro County, down to Gun Barrel City and Athens, you still have to deal with this. If you are west of a line from Italy to Waxahachie to Red Oak, Lancaster, Hutchins, Mesquite, Rowlett, Lucas, Princeton, Farmersville, Blue Ridge, Westminster, Whitewright, Bells, you're done. There's nothing else behind this. It is going to clear out real fast and be a beautiful night. East of this line, the squall line will make it all the way to Arkansas and Louisiana within several hours. It's moving east at highway speed, and it doesn't have to stop for potty breaks or road construction. But again, damaging winds of 60 to maybe 70 miles an hour in spots. We just took a trip back to the 70s with the radar data. Let me fix that. Most folks will likely see winds of maybe 50 to 60 miles an hour, if that, from, let's just say, west Ross Abbott, northeast to the Red River. If you are from Waco, southwest to Kerrville, strongest storms may have some winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour, small hail, but they're not severe right now. So what I'm going to do right now, assuming I can figure out how, I may not actually be able to turn off y'all on DFW Scanner, if DFW Scanner even has this on. To be honest, I never checked, and we do. So what we're going to do here in about 10 minutes or so, around 10:50, is we're briefly going to end these live streams, or at least on Facebook. We're going to end the Facebook live stream for a few minutes and restart it, and that way we'll be able to let our DFW Scanner audience enjoy their night, as this will be exiting the DFW Scanner coverage area to the east, and thankfully so. So at this point, we have a line of strong to severe storms from near, well, just east of Bonham to Greenville, just west of Terrell, just west of Kaufman, near Seagoville, to Ennis, Blooming Grove, Malone, just northwest of Hubbard, coming to the north side of Waco. From Waco southwest, we have a line of storms that's not severe, all the way to Moody, Fort Hood, and Killeen, Burnett, Marble Falls, Fredericksburg, Kerrville, and it almost looks like just east of well east of Campwood, now west of Bandera, and west of Burney. Those storms might have small hail, gusty winds, but are not severe at this time. Storms from essentially west northeast to the Red River are stronger and could have damaging straight line winds, some hail, small hail, and maybe a brief tornado or two. The only tornado warning we have right now is for this circulation that is now northeast of Ennis, moving up Highway 34. Let's take a look at the which way the wind's blowing mode and see if it shows up at all, and frankly, not really. I mean, the signature's weaker than it was 10 minutes ago. There is a circulation, a very small one, about 3 miles east of Palmer. Might have a brief tornado with it. But again, we just have a lot of straight line winds here. And when we do have circulations develop, it is often very quick, in the matter of literally 30 to 45 seconds. Could put down a very small, brief tornado and be gone. That occurs in the span of what the radar would scan. So the radar might honestly miss it completely, because the radar takes time to scan and send that data. So we could have a brief tornado about 4 miles east of Palmer, and then the original, or one of the original circulations, moved over Ennis and northeast of Ennis now. So if you're in Ennis, it's pouring, but the tornado, if there is one, is now to your northeast. It's probably blowing. Bardwell, you're clear. Rain's about to stop. Alma, well, you're technically about to get in on some strong winds. I don't see a sign of a tornado in your neck of the woods right now, but again, these storms can produce brief tornadoes without warning. Example of that, just north of M House, just southwest of Rice. Not even in a tornado warning. You see a little notch right there. Switch over to the which way the wind's blowing mode. You can see a little bit of a circulation. So again, those can produce brief, quick tornadoes in addition to some strong straight line winds. And unfortunately, those are very hard to warn for with much lead time or any lead time. And sometimes you put a tornado warning in place and the tornado, if there was one, is already gone. All right, I'm going to take a look at this real quick. Yeah, a little bit of a notch on radar there over Hewitt, southwest of Waco, south of Woodway, west of Robinson. Wow, I haven't had the RW speech impediment come out in a while. Southwest of Beverly. This is not producing a tornado. I'm just looking because it's an appendage, and you must always examine appendages on the front sides of squall lines because they can produce spinnies. And by spinnies, I mean brief tornadoes. I suppose I could be technical, but at the same time, technicalities only get you so far before it just becomes redundant and boring. And there's the latest scan, and that weird looking appendage is already almost gone. So again, we'll just keep an eye on things here. And we're going to take a quick break on Facebook shortly before coming back on the Texas Storm Chasers Facebook. We'll let our DFW scanner folks go enjoy their night as this is exiting the coverage area for DFW Scanner. And again, I want to thank the owner of DFW Scanner, John Bergdorf, for graciously allowing us to live stream using his platform as well during severe weather events, since it helps get the word out to more folks who might otherwise have no idea, hey, there's a storm. I mean, you'd find out once the storm got there, but the key is to find out before. So I think this is actually a good time to do that. So Facebook audience on Texas Storm Chasers and DFW Scanner. We'll be back on the TSC Facebook here in a little while. I'll keep the TSC Twitter and YouTube's on, which is over on our website and mobile app as well. Facebook will be back. I want to thank y'all for joining us this evening. I hope all of y'all were able to stay weather aware and didn't suffer any adverse impacts from the storms this evening. But I know some folks did, and that there are plenty of folks without power. I'll look at that real quick before I let y'all go. Looks like about 58,000 people around North Texas without power right now. So, all right, Facebook folks, we'll be back in a bit. Everyone else, stand by just one momento. All right, we are back. My apologies. Let's talk about what we've got going on. Good news. There's no new tornado warning for this storm coming out of Ellis County into southern Kaufman County, which is good. Hopefully that means this tornado warning for Ellis County is going to be gone soon. In which case, we'll have severe thunderstorm warnings, but, that's better than having tornado warnings. You got to look on the bright side of things in life, and that's positive. We've got strong winds with these storms in Kaufman and Rockwall counties. Squall line all the way up to Greenville, up to Ladonia, to Honeygrove, coming up on Toco and Paris and Roxton. The potential for straight line winds, 60 to 70 miles an hour, knock out power, cause damage to trees. Hopefully we don't have any trees fall on anyone's vehicles this evening, or roads that then get hit by vehicles. If Stephen was driving, I'm sure he'd hit a tree tonight. But at this point, the most intense storms are actually up here in northeast Texas. Very strong winds being indicated, but unfortunately, they are nowhere near any close weather radars. For now, I believe next spring they're putting a new weather radar here in Durant, which will be useful for analyzing low-level wind profiles with thunderstorms. But for now, the radar beam around Paris is about 14,000 feet above the surface. Great to know what's going on 14,000 feet above the surface, but it doesn't tell you anything about what's going on between 14,000 feet and the surface. Rant concluded, so again, that's where the strongest winds are now. There is an enhanced threat for damaging straight-line winds from Paris coming up to, Cumbie, Lone Oak, I believe. It's not going to show up on here, but I think Cache is east of Greenville, too. Down to Quinlan. Potential for damaging straight-line winds, 60 to 70 miles per hour. Storms currently from Rosser up 334, almost to Kaufman, to Rice, down 31, to Hubbard. East side of Waco could have some strong winds, but honestly, those don't look as impressive. Tornado warning for Ellis County has been allowed to expire, so that is the good news. Tornado warning for Ellis County is gone. No more tornado warnings. So, with all that said, we are going to take a bit of a break here for a little while. I'll be back, trust me, we're not done, but I'm going to take a bit of a break, drink some caffeine, find something to make my throat not sound like a scratchy old person, even though I look like an old person, lack of a hairline, and then we will be back. But again, over the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, potential for 60, 70 mile an hour straight line winds in Terrell, Quinlan, Cumbie, Cache, Cooper, Commerce, Roxton, Cooper, Sulphur Springs, Paris, Blossom, Emory, potential, and Canton, the potential for 60 to 70 mile an hour winds that could knock out power, cause tree damage, and all the fun stuff that comes with having winds knock stuff down. So, we'll be back. Still have sub-severe storms extending into the hill country. Those will impact San Antonio all the way up to Austin, Round Rock, New Braunfels, and Georgetown over the next 2 hours or so, but they're behaving themselves, and hopefully will continue to do so. So, we'll be back as necessary. I'm going to go take a little bit of a voice break. Y'all have a good night. Oh yeah, we have radar on our website, TexasStormChasers.com/radar.